Well, right now, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center is holding a press conference on the status of Flossie. KITV4's own Moani Kayla Navarro is live there. We're going to hear from her after the press conference. We also want to update you on a few closures here on Oahu. Mayor Kirk Caldwell has announced that non-essential city personnel will be permitted to go home at 3:30. Right now, let's
press conference
listen
regarding still tropical storm Flossie. Again, my name is Mike Hanton. I'm the warning coordination meteorologist here at the Central Pacific Hurricane Center in the National Weather Service office in Honolulu. Here to give you just an update on what we're seeing with Flossie now and what we expect as we go through the remainder of today. So to take a look at the current situation, we'll highlight the current forecast and the uncertainties that still exist. We've seen that throughout the life cycle of the storm. There have been some uncertainties out there. And we'll be talking after this press conference, another press conference scheduled for later on this evening at 8 p.m. So right now we still continue to have tropical storm warnings in effect for all islands in the state. That means that tropical storm conditions are expected. And flash flood watch is out for all areas. We have a flash flood advisory for portions of the Big Island right now where some of the rainfall is already impacting those areas. The storm is located right now, the center of it, about 65 miles north-northeast of Hilo, 200 or so miles east-southeast of Honolulu, with max sustained winds right around 40 miles an hour. Now the threshold to be a tropical storm is 39 miles an hour. So this is a low-end tropical storm right now at 40 miles an hour. Still moving at a good clip, 18 miles an hour to the west and northwest. So the storm is still being steered by that ridge of high pressure off the California coast that you can see there. It's been in control of this system throughout its life cycle, moving it from east to west, steering it straight towards us. And that will continue as we go through the rest of today into the overnight hours with Flossie as it tracks to the west and northwest. Now, this is an important image here. This is the current situation looking at a visible satellite imagery. And what we've seen since this morning is that the low-level center of the circulation, where that low is located in the center of Flossie, is now we call fully exposed. And I'll point to it here so you can see. Fully exposed right here. So when we see with tropical cyclones, as the low becomes exposed, what happens is it loses some of the moisture tap and some of the energy from any storms that are spinning around it. So now all the convection, all the thunderstorm activity, the rain showers are now down to the south of the circulation. So the low itself has lost its source of energy, one of the sources of energy, and it typically leads to a rapid weakening of the system. And that's what we've seen as we've gone through the overnight hours into this morning as that low has been exposed. Now this area here, these clouds, it's an area of some moderate to heavy rainfall that's now impacting the Big Island that is going to be dragged to the northwest as the low tracks on our forecast path. So there's still the potential for some heavier rain showers and maybe some minor flooding as the system tracks that way. Here's our official track now. You can see the center to the northeast of the Big Island here, tracking almost due west, just north of due west as it crosses the state. Forecast to become a tropical depression, so with winds less than 39 miles an hour in the next 12 hours or less. And so that's kind of the trend for that, the continuing weakening as that low level, the circulation has been fully exposed at this time. So the tropical storm force wind threat is diminishing. What we've seen, one of our satellite passes over the system has indicated some winds of tropical storm force strength on the northeast side of the low level circulation, kind of this little pocket, so keeping it a tropical storm. In general, the winds around the circulation have dropped below tropical storm force at this point, but still pretty gusty. And we are seeing some wind damage reports out of the Hilo side of the Big Island, namely in Puna, with the winds coming out of the south and southeast on the southern side of the circulation. So all that's going to be moving northwest across the state as we go through this afternoon to the evening, so definitely some impacts still potentially out there as we go through. So the wind threat area, we've been showing this graphic the last couple of days, has shrunk. Used to cover the whole state. Now it's kind of shrinking to more of the central and eastern portion of the state where we can see some of the gustier winds out of the south. Sustained winds right now 25 to 35 miles an hour with gusts to around 40 for portions of the Big Island. As the system tracks to the northwest, we expect winds of 20 to 30, maybe gusting up to 40 miles an hour as the system approaches for Maui County, Oahu, and westward to Kauai County. So winds still kind of breezy, and one of the issues will be as the low tracks to the northwest, on the southeast side, we're going to be getting winds out of the south, so kind of a Kona direction. Because our vegetation is used to the winds out of the northeast, when winds come out of the south, if they're gusty, we could see some branches down, maybe some power lines, some minor power outages because of that change in the normal wind direction. So that's something we need to be kind of watching for as we go through into the afternoon, evening, and overnight tonight for portions of the state. Surf has been up. We've seen surf as high as 12 feet on the east side of the Big Island. Maui County should be seeing similar surf, 12 to 15, maybe up to 18 feet as we go into the afternoon. Now, because of the track of the storm, the western islands, Oahu and Kauai, may have been blocked a little bit from the larger waves as Flossie projected to the west. And so we expect surf there maybe up to 10 feet on the east-facing shores as we go into the evening hours, maybe late afternoon at the earliest for the western portion of the state. So timing, it looks like impacts through this afternoon, early evening for eastern Maui County and the Big Island, and then further west from there, mid to late afternoon, early evening through early on Tuesday. And the system is projected to be west of the area during the day, midday, late day tomorrow. So the impact should be starting to wind down there. So the main points, the event is underway right now for the Big Island. Gusty winds, a little bit less than tropical storm force strength, but because they're out of the south, causing some minor damage and power outages, some road closures due to falling trees in the Puna district there. All of that tracking to the northwest across the state. So still some gusty winds on the way, some moderate to potentially heavy rainfall. It doesn't look like we're going to see as much rainfall as we were anticipating earlier when the system was stronger. We were saying 6 to 10 inches. Now we're looking at 2 to 4 inches for the Big Island, around 1 to 2 inches everywhere else. So enough rain that some areas could see some minor flooding, especially if it comes down heavy and some bursts out of the showers, but otherwise more kind of nuisance potential out there, but something to keep an eye on. Remember, don't drive across flooded roads, especially if the water is moving, and don't get yourself into danger. So that potential will be out there as we go throughout the day today into this evening as we work across the state. Again, winds will be gusty out of the south, so some minor power outages will be possible. We're just asking folks to continue to monitor the system. It is on a weakening trend, and that is anticipated to continue, but it is still a tropical storm. Tropical storm warnings are in effect through at least 5 o'clock. We're going to be reevaluating as we go through the afternoon whether we need to drop those. But right now, they're still in effect. The storm is still a tropical storm. It's packing some gusty winds and some moderate to heavy rainfall, so we need to be vigilant to that and stay in tune with that, keep an eye on the situation as we go forth this afternoon. That's it for the weather situation. I'm standing by for any questions both here in the room and also on the phone. So please go ahead with questions. Yes, sir.
Hi, Chris Tanaka from Hawaii News Now. The storm is diminishing in strength, but at this point in time, what remains its biggest threat?
Okay, so the question was, what's the biggest threat from the system right now? The biggest threat currently would most likely be the rainfall in the areas, especially for the Big Island. There's a swath of rain moving on right now. And actually, let me click on a button and bring up the latest radar imagery here so you can kind of see where that rainfall is falling now. So you can see this area of rainfall moving on to the Big Island here fairly quickly from east to west. So the biggest threat would be the potential for some flash flooding out there. We're not seeing very heavy or high rain rates right now, so more nuisance flooding. But areas that are prone to flash flooding, just be on the lookout for that still, and we could expect some of that. And winds secondarily, again, those southerly winds, but I think the biggest threat right now will still be the potential flooding out there.
So by this evening, it'll be mostly on Maui County and Oahu, the worst of it, would you say? And does that mean Big Island would have seen the worst of it and will be clearing out from there?
So we're looking at the timing-wise, yeah. So the Big Island will see the worst of it now through middle of the afternoon, and then further west from there, Maui County, Oahu, and Kauai is more towards mid-afternoon into the evening, into the overnight hours. But the system will continue to weaken as it drifts northwest, so the potential impacts will kind of be on the wane as well as we get towards later on this evening and into the overnight hours.
Mike Wanikala from KITV. We've been hearing about reports of people going into the water to catch the high surf coming up on the Big Island and the Maui side. I'm assuming you're not thinking that's such a smart move. Tell us about the risks involved with that.
Sure, so the question is about the surf and the potential risks out there. And yeah, the surf is up. We're in Hawaii. People love to get into the water, for sure. But with this, the situation, the combination of the surf coming up, the potential for the rain, and some wind still on the way, creates a really kind of a potentially deadly situation out there. So we're recommending that people stay out of the water. The surf is up. It looks like fun, but there are the other factors that are going to be out there as well. So that combination could be potentially a deadly situation. We'd like people to kind of to stay out of the waves if they can.
Mike, you said that it was going to be west by midday tomorrow. Does that mean west of Kauai?
Yeah, so the current track, let's go back here to the other image. And I'll get you the exact timing here as what we expect as it travels west. It is continuing to move quickly to the west. We'll scoot back to the graphic here. And so as we look at early tomorrow morning, we have it to somewhere in the vicinity of western Kauai County, near either the island of Kauai or Ni'ihau. And then by midday on tomorrow, it should be further west from there. Yeah, so it should be kind of out of the hair. But now, because most of the rainfall is on the southeast side, we could see the impacts of the rainfall lingering through the morning hours for Kauai County.
But by midday, I think everything should be clearing out the rest of the state.
Yes, by midday, things will be clearing out. So by early morning tomorrow, we're anticipating that most of the activity will be Oahu or westward, most likely more west than Oahu into Kauai County.
Is there any chance of this changing path at all or even coming back around? Is that a possibility?
Okay, so the question is about, is there any potential changes to track from here? There's always that possibility. In the weather business, you never say never. What ended up happening, we had a pretty substantial change overnight to the track, as we were expecting it to head down to the south. As the system was sheared by those winds, the low-level center actually shifted northward. And so when the clouds were able to clear enough that we could pinpoint the center, we saw that it was further north, which adjusted the track. So there's always that potential out there, but we don't anticipate that. Because there isn't much convection near the system now and it's waning, it should continue on its current projected track.
Mike, can I ask you?
Okay.
You
Go ahead.
mentioned the sustained winds flirting with 40 miles per hour right now. What are the maximum gusts that you've seen most recently, and what type of damage can those gusts produce?
Okay, so the question was about what are the maximum gusts that we've seen and what type of damage. And so we've seen max gusts right around 40 miles an hour in the Hilo area in Puna. And we're getting reports of downed trees, some power lines. We had an outbuilding at the Hilo airport was partially damaged as well. So 40 miles an hour is enough in gusts to, especially from a southerly direction, to bring down some limbs, potentially a power line if a tree falls in the vicinity. Minor structural damage, but overall it's not going to be a big deal with the winds.
Mike, I know you were saying possibly it could be a tropical depression by the time it reaches Oahu. What does that mean for us?
So the question was, it looks like it may be a tropical depression by the time it reaches Oahu, and what does that mean? So it means winds less, the sustained winds less than 39 miles an hour, and a continuing weakening trend. So depression, rainfall is kind of the big thing that we worry about there. And so it pretty much means that it won't be quite as strong as it is now, but still packing similar impacts. And the main reason for calling it a tropical storm now is that we are seeing winds, the tropical storm force strength, that are on the northeast side of the storm. So we can confirm that, hey, it does have those winds. They're not all the way around the circulation, but it's still a tropical storm. But it's well on its way to becoming a tropical depression, for sure.
And windward areas will get the brunt of the effects, but really the whole island, or all islands really, will getting some as far as rain, winds, and all the others.
Sure. So the question is about windward sides. Will they see more? But really, that all areas. And I think at this point for rainfall, all areas have potential to see it. Initially, out ahead of the low, the winds will be coming out of the north and northeast. So windward areas will stand a chance to see more of the rain there. As the low passes, with the winds coming out of the south and that moisture tap to the southeast, that's pretty much everywhere. In fact, potentially impacting leeward areas a little bit more because of the Kona winds. We think of Kona storms in the wintertime, cold fronts where we get the winds out of the south. A similar situation, but in this case not quite as strong as even one of the cold fronts that we can see every winter here in Hawaii. Okay, any questions in the room or on the phone?
The amount of rain and wind to expect on Kauai tomorrow?
Sure, so the question is about how much to expect on Kauai. We're looking for winds about 20 to 30 miles an hour, gusting maybe as high as 40 miles an hour, and that'll be beginning later on, late this afternoon, early evening, and overnight. Rainfall about 1 to 2 inches total.
Has the speed of the weakening been pretty consistent throughout today and throughout since overnight since we last talked about this?
Okay, so the question was about the weakening. Has the speed been consistent? Have we seen any changes in that? The weakening happened quite rapidly overnight. So we went from a storm that was 60 miles an hour yesterday afternoon. By the evening, it was dropping rapidly from there. And so it's been consistent now. Now that the low-level center is exposed, it'll be kind of that continuous, kind of gradual weakening. The weakening was quicker last night, but now it's pretty consistent. So we can expect, as we're forecasting, the tropical storm Flossie to become a tropical depression later on today.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, morning, Mike. Melissa from the Maui News. What should Maui see? Are we going to see, I'm assuming, less than what the Big Island is seeing right now?
Yes, so the question was about Maui. What can Maui County expect? Yeah, a little bit less than the Big Island. I think you'll still get the burst of the southerly winds as you go through later on mid to late afternoon as that low tracks through. An increase in shower activity as well. We're anticipating about 1 to 2 inches total for Maui County as well. And so some of those will potentially impact the leeward areas that have been very dry and drought-stricken as well, both in the Big Island and Maui County. So it's a beneficial rains, hopefully, for those areas. But yeah, about 1 to 2 inches of rain. Gusty winds again in that 20 to 30 mile per hour, gusting up to 40 mile per hour range for Maui County later on this afternoon and evening. Any further questions? Okay, well, without any other questions, thank you for attending. And oh, we got one more? Yes.
Yeah, so is it expected to make landfall and where?
Right now, it looks like it's aimed at Maui, but it may very well not be a tropical storm before it makes landfall. And so right now, if there was to be a landfall, the center of the circulation is heading towards the island of Maui. But it's at this point, with its weakening trend, it may not be a tropical storm by the time it gets there. So when we talk about a landfall, we'll be talking about a tropical storm force strength. But yeah, that's just for the center of the storm.
When is that predicted to occur?
That would be later on this afternoon. It's, in fact, I've got, let me pull up the time here. So we're looking at anywhere in the next couple of hours would be the potential timing of when the center of the low would come through.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you recap again the major impacts on Oahu that you're expecting?
Okay, so the question is about the recapping of Oahu. So Oahu, we're looking at about 1 to 2 inches of rain. Winds coming up out of the south later on this evening in the first part of the overnight period. So some Kona winds coming in, gusting as high as 40 miles an hour, sustained 20 to 30. And so some minor structural damage could be possible for some areas, and maybe some brief power outages because of some broken branches or a down tree here or there.
You said that you're going to be reevaluating at 5 o'clock on whether this is a storm or a depression.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case?
Yes, we can expect between now and then, our forecasters are looking very closely at the system and its rate of decline, and we'll be able to potentially pull the trigger on saying it's a tropical depression by this afternoon. There's no guarantees in that. If we see a flare up of some convection and other things, but we'll be reevaluating, and potentially we could see the drop of the warnings later on this afternoon. But that's not a guarantee. We're going to be watching very closely.
But it doesn't hit Maui around that time, right? I mean, in the next 3 hours or so?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and right now the strongest winds are northeast of the center, right around tropical storm force winds. And I think for all islands, including Maui County, when those southerly winds get in, that's when we'll see the potential for more minor damage, just because of the difference in wind direction from normal. Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, one more.
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
Are we still thinking Wednesday that this thing will be totally gone, that it'll dissipate?
Yes, by Wednesday, whether it's completely dissipated or not, it'll be west of the main Hawaiian Islands and not causing us any issues by then. Okay, so if there are no further questions, thank you for attending. Again, we'll be back at 8 p.m. and look for the latest advisory forecast package coming out at 5 o'clock today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mike, when you go to it,
And we just heard from National Weather Service Warning Coordination Meteorologist Mike Canton saying that Flossie is weakening, so some positive news there, but we are still not in the clear, expecting it to move into Maui as a very weak tropical storm, possibly in the next couple of hours. Now, minor flooding still possible, especially for the windward side of the Big Island, and it actually could mean some extra rain for those drought-stricken spots there. Gusty winds also still a possibility, and they continue to monitor this weak tropical storm, and we'll have another update for you coming up during tonight's 5 o'clock newscast. Reporting from the Central Pacific Hurricane Center, Moani K. Navarro, KITV4 News.
Moani, thank you for that update. Governor Neil Abercrombie has authorized state directors to determine the release of employees due to Flossie. The administration anticipates the release of some employees in Maui and Hawaii counties to the extent that Flossie progresses. Also, the Board of Water Supply is asking all Oahu residents to conserve water ahead of Flossie's expected landfall on the island around 10 o'clock tonight. The Board of Water Supply needs to fill its reservoirs, so it needs residents to keep water use to a minimum and only for essential uses, which of course include drinking, cooking, and sanitation purposes. Ahead of severe weather, the DLNR is handing out free preparedness books for boaters. It provides important information on what actions boaters and other members of the marine community should take during this severe weather situation. For more information on where to get a boater's preparedness book, visit the As Seen On section of our website, of course, KITV.com. Also, the University of Phoenix Hawaii campuses will be closed tonight. School officials say classes at all 3 campuses are canceled from 3 p.m. on. Classes are expected to resume tomorrow. Stay with KITV4 for continuing coverage of Flossie on air, online, and on your smartphone. We'll bring you live reports every hour, and we'll also bring you the latest on KITV4 News at 5, 6, and 10 tonight. And don't forget to download our KITV4 Hurricane app. It tracks the storm and gives you the latest information. And, of course, it's free. Thanks for watching this KITV4 News special report. I'm Yunji Denise, and now we rejoin our regular programming in progress.